If you're a salon or spa owner, cosmetology school gave you the skills to serve clients, but it didn't prepare you to run a business. You probably thought ownership would mean freedom, but instead you're working harder than ever, barely paying yourself, and worried that everything's going to fall apart the second you step away. Welcome to the station, where we give you real strategies, systems, and structure so you can step into the CEO seat where you belong. Hey friends, welcome back to the station, the podcast for salon and spa owners who want the truth about what it really takes to run this industry like a business. I'm Bree, founder of the Beauty Biz Agency, and as always, I've got my amazing co-host, co-founder, and bestie here with me. Hey Chandra, how's it going?
Hello, doing good today.
Awesome. Okay, so we've had quite a few questions come in recently about business partnerships. So I think it's time that we talk about it on this podcast. To be honest, salon partnerships are one of the biggest traps I think salon owners can fall into. Most of the time, you go into it with a best friend, a sister, a coworker, and you think that maybe feels safer than going into it by yourself, right? Going into it together just feels better. It's like, we're going to do this side by side. We're going to share the risk. It's going to be fun and it's not going to feel so heavy. Yeah. But here's what we've learned from coaching salon owners for the past 6+ years, guys. What starts out as comfort, it often turns into conflict. You have different visions, different work ethics, money disagreements. It all bubbles up eventually. And when a partnership goes wrong, it doesn't just break the business. It can destroy friendships. It can destroy families. It can damage reputations. And it can leave both people feeling like they lost way more than they ever thought they would. Now, look, I am not saying that partnerships don't ever work. I've seen a lot of them that do. But I think salon ownership is just different when it comes to partnerships. I've honestly seen way more of them blow up than ones that actually work. So let's just get into it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about why these partnerships go sideways so often, what's really underneath all of the mess that's happening, and what owners need to think about before they sign that dotted line. So when partnerships start to fall apart, it's almost never just this one big moment that happens, this one big blow up. It's usually a bunch of pressure points that were never actually addressed in the beginning of the partnership. Things people thought that they could just maybe figure out later, but later usually ends up being when everything's already super tense, you've already got money involved, and the trust is already starting to crack just a little bit. So, Chandra, these are the 5 big areas that I think we see over and over again. Number 1 would be lack of role clarity. Number 2 is unequal effort. Number 3 is no decision-making structure. Number 4 is no exit strategy. And number 5 is different long-term visions. I think these are the 5 things that will make or break a partnership. How do you feel about that?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay, so let's walk through each of them. Number 1, lack of role clarity. This is usually the first crack that kind of starts to show. When people go into business together, especially friends or family, they make a ton of unspoken assumptions. Who's leading? Who's behind the chair? Who's handling the numbers? Who's managing the team? But if you don't clearly define what each person is actually responsible for, it's going to turn into one person quietly carrying the majority of the load while the other doesn't even realize that it's actually happening. And I think that silent imbalance is extremely dangerous because it breeds resentment under the surface. I have seen this play out where one partner is basically like the heartbeat of the salon business. They're running the operations, they're managing the staff, they're driving the growth, while the other shows up maybe a couple of days of the week, but they still call themselves the co-owner, right? The entire salon team sees it, the clients see it, everybody feels what's going on, and then it just explodes. And here's the part people don't really want to hear. Clarity isn't just about job titles, it's about accountability. That's what it comes down to. If both people are in the leader seat, then nobody is. I know that sounds bad, but it's the truth. Someone has to own the big calls. Someone has to own the execution. It's just the way that it goes. Chandra, when you're working with owners who are stuck in that muddy middle, right? Where the roles were never truly defined and that resentment is starting to build, what is the very first thing you tell them to get that clarity back on track?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak kind of to that from personal experience because I had a business partner for the first 8 years that I opened the salon. And I actually had a very good experience with my business partner. And we did not set up clear roles. And I feel like when I went through this process, we learned as we went. Like we kind of just, but the biggest thing, and to answer kind of your question, is the best thing for my business partner and I at the time was communication. And no matter what, if one of us felt like we were getting resentment, if one of us felt like the other one was carrying the load, if one of us felt like this is your job or this is my job, we just talked about it always. And I think that's the biggest thing is when you get that clarity, you need to be able to communicate with your partner, with your person, and have that conversation. Like we need to have a clear line in the sand of what you're responsible for, what I'm responsible for, because like you said, both people can't be doing everything all the time because then nothing will get done, right? So it has to really be delegated and those roles have to be laid out. But I think that open communication in the beginning and just kind of having that conversation so that you guys can get on the same page with what those roles need to look like. Whose strengths lie where do those strengths lie, so that you can start figuring out how you guys could work together to actually make it be successful instead of butting heads at each other or starting to get mad and resentful.
Yep, 100% agree. The second one is unequal effort. This one is brutal in my opinion because it's usually where that trust it really starts to break. One partner is putting in full-time work, maybe behind the chair and leading the team and handling payroll and doing all of the marketing and all of the operational pieces, right? The other kind of just drifts in and out. Maybe they work a couple of days, maybe they don't, just whatever they feel. But at the end of the month, they both expect the same paycheck, the same voice in all of the decision making, and the same level of ownership. And if you've ever been in that position, you know how fast that bitterness can grow. The other piece that people don't always think about is what your employees are actually seeing, right? When one partner is clearly carrying the weight and the other isn't, it always creates this weird dynamic in your studio. And then people pick sides, even if they don't mean to. And once that division creeps in at the top, it starts to spread like wildfire. Chandra, I know we have seen this probably more times than we can count when the workload and the energy are just completely uneven. What's one honest conversation that owners usually need to have, but they just keep pushing it off and keep avoiding?
I mean, I think you have to just lay it out and be honest about it. Like if you're the one that's carrying the weight and you feel like it's all you have to talk to the other owner and tell them that. You have to, make sure that they feel where you're coming from, and vice versa. The other person might be thinking they're doing all this stuff, like I had that in my business where we did kind of have the employees starting to pit us against each other. One would go and ask one because they knew they would get a different kind of answer than from the other one, and then we'd find out they were going to both of us and trying to get different answers. And it's like mom and dad, like, or good cop bad cop, like it's just one of those things that will happen. So you've got to have that open conversation with your partner and just lay it out like, hey, this is how I'm feeling, this is what's going on, I want this to work, how do we make this work, because both parties want it to
Yeah,
work more often than not, right? And so it's like you just can't, you
right.
have to have the hard conversation. I think people are afraid to have it, but you have to have it.
I mean, it's kind of like a marriage, right? The
Mhm.
partnership is. And if
Yep.
you don't have open communication in your marriage, it's never going to work. And partnership in business is no different, especially in the salon industry. Number three, and this one I think is one of the sneakiest because a lot of salon owners don't even realize that it's a problem until they kind of hit that first real disagreement. And that is no decision making structure. If there is no clear structure for who is going to make the majority of the calls, everything is going to turn into a debate. It's going to. Every decision becomes this slow, drawn out back and forth. Nothing moves quickly. And eventually, one person is going to start to feel unheard. Meanwhile, the team can feel the leadership tug of war once again happening right above them. And when leadership isn't aligned, everything else in the business is going to be shaky. This isn't just about the big decisions, though. It's the everyday stuff, whether it's pricing adjustments, scheduling policies, retail strategies, team structure. If every single thing requires this negotiation of sorts, your business is going to lose momentum very, very quickly. Chandra, when you walk into a business where every decision turns into this back and forth power struggle type thing, what is your go to strategy for helping partners get out of that stuck place and actually start moving forward in their business?
I mean, I think they have to just really lay down what both of them see and expect. Like what is your expectation? What do you see? What do you want? What do you think is the right thing? And they both need to come up with that on their own. And then they need to come together and find a middle ground, because there's always probably going to be similarities. There's always going to be ways to work out those situations, but you have to both define kind of what you want and then say, okay, together, we're going to make this happen. We're going to do it this way. This is your strength. You're going to be responsible for this. This is my strength. I'm going to be responsible for that. You have to trust each other in their decision making in those things to know, like, I trust you to lead it the way that we're talking about. You trust me to do it the way that I'm doing it. And that's really what it's about too, is because you have to have each other's back no matter what to keep those situations smooth, calm, and to get rid of that power struggle and that decision making.
Oh, I couldn't have said it any better. I think that is 100% accurate and so, so important. And then if things don't work out the way that they should, then you can have a conversation, right? Okay, so next time maybe we try this or do that or whatever it is. But yes, I mean, I just take our business, for instance, the Beauty Biz agency. We work in a very different way. Yes, it's not a salon, but we have to trust each other completely because there are times where you can't get a hold of me and you got to make a call. I trust that you're going to do the right thing. I trust you. Even if it flops, I support you, I back you, I trust you, and we figure it out, right? And vice versa. Number 4, and I think almost nobody wants to talk about this in the beginning of a partnership, but it's important to think about, and that's no having no exit strategy. It feels uncomfortable, it feels negative, and everybody is like caught up in this excitement of building something together. But if we're being honest, if you skip this conversation, it's really one of the biggest mistakes you can make. Here's the reality. If you are going into a partnership, you have to be prepared to be in it for the long haul. Like that's where your mentality has to be, right? I'm talking years, not a season, not a chapter, not until something shinier or better comes along. You've got to be in it. If one person has a sliver of the I might want out soon, that should be a massive red flag to you. And that's why it's important to talk about. You can't sign up for something like a business partnership lightly because if you walk away early, it's not just a personal decision. It leaves the other person holding absolutely everything, the responsibility, the stress, the clients, the team, the financial weight. And that is not fair. And it's not being a good leader nor a good person, in my opinion. I think that's why exit conversations should be about if, when, and how far down the road that would realistically be as well. If you're committing to building something together, it has to be with a shared understanding that you're both in it for years and years and years to come. If someone's not truly committed to that timeline, then they need to be clear up front. But eventually that timeline is going to come. And when it does come, 10 years down the road, 8 years down the road, whatever it is, you should already have some sort of a written plan for how that business will be valued, how a buyout would work, and what happens with the brand and with the leadership. That way, there's an exit that is structured, not emotional. And it's very, very important to do that. Chandra, I know we have both seen owners blindsided when a partner just dips out early. We see it all over Facebook all the time too. What's the conversation that you push people to have before they sign anything to make sure that they're actually in this for the long game and they are completely committed?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like what happened to me. I wouldn't say, I mean, we worked it out fine, but I was blindsided in a way because my partner went through some life changes and she just, she had to make a change and it wasn't her plan in the beginning. So we didn't have an exit strategy. We didn't have a plan for this. We just figured, man, we're all here. We're going to be here forever and it is what it is. And so I think, going through that process and really figuring it out along the way going forward, I would tell owners, you definitely need to have that conversation because even if you guys are both thinking we're in this forever, life happens, right? Sometimes things happen in people's lives and they have to make a change or something, whatever could happen, right? So you need to have that plan in place and start looking at those things, kind of what you said, like, okay, if for some reason you're not going to do this anymore, what do we do? Do we sell the business? Do I go on by myself? Do I find another partner? Like, what does that look like for you? And what do the financials look like? How does the money going to go? Are you going to pay somebody to buy them out? Are you going to, just walk away? Like, what do those things look like? And I think having that in place would have helped me going through that process a lot easier because luckily I did have a good relationship and open communication with my partner at the time. And so we worked it out. But it was a process. We had to go through a lot of things that we didn't expect. And as you start going through it, you're like, oh, wait, how do we handle the team with this situation? Oh, wait, how do we handle this? Those little things start coming up
Yep.
because you don't think about them until you're in it. And so definitely create that plan and have that open communication with them. That really is the biggest piece I think that you can possibly have is that just honest, open communication and trust with each other.
Yeah, definitely. And salons aren't remote work. You guys have to remember that. Like it requires people to be in person all the time. Remote things are so different nowadays and there's a lot of businesses out there that I mean, I could move anywhere in the world and still be able to work. So you have to think this isn't remote work like most people are working now. It's
Mhm.
very, very intentional and you can't just have an owner in the partnership that never shows up in person. Like it just doesn't work that way. Okay, number 5, and I think this is a really, really big one. And honestly, it's the one most people feel very uncomfortable talking about. One partner, let me tell you what it is. Different long-term visions, okay? One partner wants to keep things small and cozy, right? And the other wants to scale to multiple locations or whatever it is. One wants luxury and very, very slow growth, and the other wants volume and fast expansion. Those are night and day different. Two totally different businesses. And if you try to build both of those at the same time, what you actually build is complete chaos and once again, another power struggle. It's going to show up in your branding, in your pricing, in your hiring, in how the business grows or how it doesn't grow. It shows up in all the ways. What's even trickier is that sometimes people think they have the same vision, but they never actually sat down and defined what that actually means in practice. So they hit a wall like a few years into it when their goals start to just clash and collide. Chandra, when you're coaching two owners who clearly want very different things, but haven't been willing to maybe admit it out loud, how do you help them get real about whether they're actually building the same business or not?
Yeah, I think it's about getting them to sit down and discover their why, which we talk about a lot, like really finding out like why do you want this? And then what is it you see for your long-term vision? And I think just coaching them through that communication piece because even if you don't want to have the conversation because who knows, maybe they want to start this business and they think they'll change the mind of the other owner or they think that they're going to have more control over it or different things like that, but guess what, your business partner's thinking the exact same thing, right? Like they're thinking they'll make it happen this way or they're going to do this, right? But it might be different vision. And so I think really defining your why, nailing down your vision, And then kind of like with the decisions, like coming together and really defining like, okay, do we actually want the same thing? Maybe we shouldn't be moving forward with this if we're both going to be on different pages, because it won't work. Somebody's going to get upset, somebody's going to get resentful, somebody's going to get frustrated, and then it will end badly, right? And so everything just comes down to that communication piece, making sure that you know what you want and making sure that you guys are on the same page. I think is the biggest part of coaching them through that situation.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And I think something that everybody needs to realize is partnerships are partnerships. I said it earlier, it's kind of like a marriage. You're going to have disagreements. You're going to have times where you don't feel comfortable telling your partner things, but you have to do it and you have to push through it and you have to get through it. You're committed. You committed to something. And so you need to make sure that you're doing all of these things, even if you haven't signed on the dotted line yet. You've got to get through it. I mean, Chandra and I have been through things before together, but we always communicate about it. Even if I have to pull it out of her, we always communicate about it, right? Like
Mhm.
we do. And it's a beautiful thing because I know regardless of what happens, I can depend on Chandra 100% without question for anything that I ever need. And I think one of the beautiful things about that is we built a partnership and then a friendship, which is really, really cool because it kind of built the opposite of what most people do. So when you look at all five of these, the lack of role clarity, unequal effort, no decision structure, no exit plan, and different visions, it's not hard to see why partnerships fall apart so often. It's not always because one person doesn't care. Most of the time, it's because people have skipped the hard conversations because everything just felt good, right? Partnerships aren't just about liking each other or trusting each other. It's a lot more than that. They're about structure, they're about leadership, they're about having the guts to say what you need to say and have those hard conversations early on. If you don't, those same exact conversations, they're going to happen later on. They're probably just going to be louder, messier, and way more expensive. Way more expensive. All right. So let's get practical for just a minute. If you are already in a partnership or if you've been thinking about stepping into one, here's where you can start putting some real structure behind it. So this thing doesn't just fall apart 3 years in and leave one of you cleaning up all the pieces. These aren't would be nice kind of steps. I don't know how to say it. These are the foundations that will make or break how stable your partnership actually is. I think that's the best way for it to be said. Number one, get everything in writing. If it's not on paper, it is not real, period. You have to have a clearly written operating agreement that lays out everything: roles, responsibilities, ownership percentages, profit distribution. What happens when you disagree? What happens if somebody wants out? And what happens if someone stops showing up? Most people sign an LLC or a partnership agreement and they think that that's enough. It's not. That's just the legal shell of it all. You need something that covers what this partnership is actually going to look like in practice. You need a contract, right? And I'm just going to say it. If someone doesn't want to sign something that is detailed or they want to just trust each other in the process, do not freaking do it. Chandra, when we are talking to people who are nervous about having these types of conversations, like in-depth ones about the contracts and all of that, because they don't want to make it awkward with a friend or a family member or whatever it is, what is the mindset shift that you can kind of help them make so that they move forward in the way that they need to move?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, even in this situation, we talk about it all the time. You have to take the emotional part of it out, right? Like it is a business. This is a business you're building. This is a business you're looking at doing with someone else who's also part of this business. And so you have to kind of set those feelings aside and have that hard conversation, shift your mindset. Like this is a business. We're growing this together. We're building this together. We need to make sure we just cover all our bases and that we're good. Like it's not like you're accusing them of doing something ahead of time. And I think that's what people automatically think. Like it's like a prenup, like, oh, you're accusing me of doing this ahead of time. And it's like, no, we just need to have our legal things and our our stuff spelled out so that we know exactly how to proceed forward and make it be a successful business, which is what you guys both want. And so it's just having that mindset shift to just realize that. Because if you're emotional and afraid to have a conversation about a contract, I mean, that's the least of the things you're going to have to deal with once you get into business ownership. So that should tell you right there that maybe that's not a good idea if you're afraid of that. So start with that conversation first. And if you can get through that one, then maybe the rest of it will, will be easier.
Yep. Okay, number 2 is define the seats at the table. Every partnership has to have clear seats, right? Someone is going to be the CEO, someone may deal with the finances, whatever it is, you have to divide those hats clearly. What you can't have is both people trying to sit in the same exact seat and call the shots at the same time. It does not work. That's where you end up fighting over who's driving the car, right? It doesn't matter if your skill sets overlap. You still have to decide who is responsible for what. Think of it like lanes on a highway. If you both try to drive in the same lane, you're going to crash. That's exactly what happens in a business partnership. Chandra, what is a go to question that you would have for helping salon owners figure out who belongs in what seat when they both want to be in charge? I hate it. I hate people thinking that they have to be in charge. That is not what business ownership is about. Not successful business ownership, anyway. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off
Yeah.
there, but
No, I mean, I think you have to look at it just that it's a partnership. It's a partnership. So you both are going to be responsible for certain things. So I think really just finding those strengths first. Find out what are your strengths. What are, like when I was, with my business partner in the beginning, I like numbers. I like analytical stuff. I like doing QuickBooks. She was like anti all those things. She didn't want to deal with it. And so she's like, I'll go talk to people and do the marketing. And I'm like, great, because I hate doing that part. Right. So we worked out like our skill set. There was a couple things that we both wanted to be part of, right? Like we had a boutique, and so it was like in the beginning, I wanted to be the one to pick all the stuff, but then she wanted to be the one to pick all the stuff. And like that's a stupid thing. But at the end of the day, like it was causing problems, because both of us didn't like what the other person was picking and we wanted to be in charge. And so you have to just define everything in the sand. Like, you know what? You do this, you handle this. I'm here to support you. If you need help, I'm here. But this is mainly your thing. And so whether you guys both want to do the same things or not, you have to define what your skill sets are and what separates you from those things.
yeah, and I think that leads us into number 3, build a real decision-making process. This part right here is going to save you so many freaking fights. You have to decide how those decisions are going to get made. Is it 50-50? Do you have a tie-breaking process? If you are 50-50, does one person have a final say in certain areas and another person in the other, right? If you do not map that out ahead of time, every disagreement is going to turn into that standoff that we were talking about. And those standoffs are what is going to build tension and build it really, really fast. You have to have a clear way to say, this is how we're going to handle disagreements so you can move forward without blowing everything up every time that you don't see eye to eye. It's so important. Number 4 is set performance and contribution expectations. Partnerships, they fall apart when effort is lopsided. They do. So you have to define what that contribution is going to look like. How many days is somebody going to be behind the chair? Who's handling that marketing? Who's leading the team meetings? Who's handling all of the money info? And just as important, what happens if somebody stops holding up their end? It's not about micromanaging your partner. It's about setting the standard clearly so there is no room for that hidden resentment to grow. If you both know exactly what's expected, then when somebody falls short, it's not personal. It's very, very clear, and you have a conversation about it. Chandra, when you walk into a partnership where effort is uneven, we talked about this earlier, and it's already gotten kind of tense behind the scenes, what is the conversation, or how should one of the partners start the conversation to shift everything, to get it moving again?
Yeah, I mean, I think just starting with like, hey, this is what's been going on. This is how I'm feeling. Like just be open and honest with them and let them know. And I think let's define exactly how this needs to look. If we have to make a change to something or if we have to do something different, let's figure it out because we don't want to be butting heads and resenting each other down the road. So I think it's really just having that straight conversation with where your view is, because even like when you're dealing with employees, having a partnership is the same thing. Like one person always sees things one way and one person sees things another way, and somewhere in the middle there has to be an answer. There has to be, a place that you can come to common ground. So I think just having that conversation, you might be seeing something completely different than what they are, and vice versa. So if you don't talk about it, if you don't just bring it up, again, it's going to fester. You're going to have issues, and it's going to eventually cause some big problems. So I think you can, if you trust your partner, if you have a good partnership, then you should be able to talk about it.
Yeah, I think you brought up a great example. I think a way to start that conversation is the same way you would start the conversation with an employee who you're fixing to have a one-on-one with. And you just have to speak from the heart when it comes to things. You have to speak from the heart. Emotions out, but speak from your heart and say how it truly is. Number 5 is commit to a long-term timeline and create that exit strategy. Gotta have it. At the end of the day, a partnership, it is not just about trust or good vibes. It's not. It's about building something solid that can last, that can provide for both of your families in the long run. If you have structure, if you have clarity, you can do that. When you have clarity, you can actually grow together instead of slowly pulling each other apart. If you're already in a partnership that feels shaky, it's not too late to fix it, hopefully. Like there are ways that it can be fixed 9 times out of 10. The conversations, they may be uncomfortable, but they are going to be way easier than letting things quietly rot underneath the surface and destroying your business and your life. It's so important to have the conversation. Chandra has said this like every 5 seconds. That's how important it is. She knows. She's been through it. Okay, let's switch gears for just a minute. We love ending these episodes with a question that is not tied to what we just talked about because as salon owners, you guys know we've got 10 other fires going on or ideas that are in the back of our heads. So, Chandra, today's listener question is, we have hit this plateau when it comes to new clients. How can I get things moving again without discounting? Our pre-booking is fine. We just can't get new clients in the door.
I mean, usually when that starts to happen, I feel like I start looking kind of at our referral base. Like, are the clients we have actually referring people to us? Are we seeing an influx of clients coming from that? Like, where do they normally come from? And kind of try to pinpoint, like, are they coming from Google? Maybe we need to up our Google presence. Are they coming from social media? Maybe we need to up our social media presence, or maybe that organic marketing just inside of the business with like email blasts and connecting to your loyal clients first, because I think that's where you're going to get a lot more referrals, especially good referrals that are actually going to be part of the business and stay.
Right.
And maybe look at what's going on in the business. If your existing retention is really high, maybe something's gone stagnant and people aren't coming to see you. Like, it happens. We see it all the time where salons, all of a sudden their reputation dips a little bit or something like that. And so just kind of pay attention to those things, I think. But I think social media is a great place to start, really amping up your branding on there and not discounting, just letting people know you're here, letting people know what you do, what you're good at, why you guys are amazing. And that will start to hopefully bring in, some new business.
Yeah, definitely get your team involved
Mhm.
in that social media marketing and networking and doing of all the things. Like, it's important for them to be involved. And so you need to get them involved. Model calls work fantastically and not in the way that everybody thinks with this free crap. That's not what it's about, right? It's also not about building a ton of profit immediately either. It's about just getting people in the door, covering your cost, and doing the things that you need to do. I know you don't want to discount things, but there are times where that just has to happen. Like you have to start getting people in to build the people that you have. So I think the social media idea is a great way to go. Get that team involved. Very, very, very important. Couldn't have said it better, Chandra. Great job.
Oh, good.
Look, guys, when it comes to partnerships, here's the truth. This is not something that you should ever enter into lightly. It's not a cute little handshake deal. It's not about liking someone or thinking that this is fun and games. It's about structure, it's about leadership, it's about building something solid that is not going to crack the second that things get hard. If you don't have these hard conversations, if you don't do the things that we told you to do, things are going to happen. It's going to cause a lot of damage. It's going to cause a lot of resentment. And it's going to happen when there is a whole lot more at stake if you don't do it early on. If you're already in a partnership that feels somewhat shaky, you can fix it. Clarity fixes a lot of what emotion messes up. That is just the honest truth. It's not going to be comfortable, but leadership isn't. I don't think leadership is ever comfortable. If you're out there and you want support building out the systems, the agreements, the structure that actually protects your business, head to www.thebeautybizagency.com. On our website, you will find free tools, a ton of different resources, coaching options. I mean, we've got all kinds of stuff so that you can build the kind of business that doesn't fall apart at the first sign of pressure, regardless of what type of pressure that is. If this episode spoke to you or it helped you, please share it with another salon owner who needs it. And don't forget to leave us that 5-star review. We appreciate it and it helps us so very much. Also, make sure that you are subscribed so you never miss out on what we have coming up next. Chandra, how can everybody out there listening keep up with everything we've got going on at the Beauty Biz Agency?
Yeah, follow us on social media at the Beauty Biz Agency on Facebook and Instagram, or the Beauty Biz Mentors on TikTok. And follow or check out our Facebook Live. We're on Facebook and YouTube the first Monday of every month at 6 p.m. Central Time. We'd love to see you there and answer any questions you have on the air. So stay in touch.
Absolutely. All right, guys, until next time, tighten those contracts. They need to be stellar. Trust your instincts and never gamble your business on a handshake. Just don't do it. That's what we've got for you. Now go out there, make bank, run the show, and ditch that chair. And as always, keep slaying those business goals with a whole lot of swagger. If this episode lit a fire under you, don't just walk away and let it die out. Deep down, you already know where you want your business and your life to go. And the truth is, the only thing standing between where you are and where you want to be is a real plan to get you there. That's exactly what we help you build. So if you're ready to stop trying to figure it out on your own, head to thebeautybizagency.com and book your free strategy call. That call can give you the clarity that you've been needing and a real plan to move your business forward. Because at the end of the day, the only thing standing between you and the salon business you've been dreaming about is whether or not you're willing to take the action and the steps in order to build it.